Hey, it's John at Tinderbox Arts. Got a bunch of bikes in my garage and I am way behind on maintenance for spring. So I have a bunch of work to do. And you know, anytime you're working on a modern bike or a car or truck or anything else, a multimeter is going to be part of the equation. Fuel injected vehicles have electronics involved with them, and every toolbox needs at least one drawer full of meters, which I have here. I got another drawer full of leads and stuff. Most of these meters are very similar in the way they work. And I have other meters floating around everywhere, but most of them look something like this, with a mechanical dial and a readout that's kind of small and kind of difficult to read sometimes when you're working on a bike or a car or whatever it is. So I have a new meter I'm going to try today. So this company, Kaiweets, sent me a multimeter to try out. Now I have another YouTube channel, and Kaiweets sent me a laser one time to check out, and I was really impressed with the quality of it, and I'm hoping this will be of similar quality. But it's a very different style of meter with a very different screen. Now this model is a KM-601, and in the box they give you a manual, and the meter itself along with the accessories comes in this nice case which has a zipper around the edge here. And when you open it up, you have the accessories on one side with the leads and everything. They do give you batteries even, and the meter on the other side. So when you open all that up, you have these leads here, which are actually pretty nice. You have a temperature lead, you have the batteries, alkaline batteries, and then the meter itself. So you can see already this is a very different looking meter. So the size and shape are very much like a smartphone. It's got a fairly large screen with some buttons on the bottom here. You can see it's pretty thin. On the outside of the meter is a rubber case which can be removed, and that's what we need to do in order to get the batteries. And then there's a screw right here to get access. They give you 6 AAA batteries, but it only takes 3, so the others are spares. And then you fit the cover back on. So the leads connect here at the bottom, and you have the familiar connections here, but the actual physical connection is on the bottom of the unit. Now when you first turn this on, it comes up in auto mode. It's got a nice bright screen, very easy to read. The color is really nice to distinguish things, and the selection of what you're using this meter for is up here on this dial. Well, you see this auto mode, it's kind of jumping between these 3 areas right here. I'll explain this in a second. But there's a function button in the middle here, this red button, and I can push that and cycle through what I might want. So that's DC volts, for example, and you could just cycle right through this for all the different functions. And then if you get to a function that requires you to change the leads, like this one, it's going to come up and say, hey dummy, you got the leads in the wrong place, and it blinks down here to tell you that they're in the wrong place. So you can, if I go to this one, you see it's blinking, showing you which ports the leads need to go into. So it's kind of sailor proof in that sense. So if you screw up, it'll tell you. But back to this auto mode, there's kind of a magic mode here where it will decide based on what you connect the leads to, what needs to be done. Let me show you. So here on my RT, for example, I'm in auto mode, and if I just touch these leads to the battery, it will automatically determine what I'm trying to do. So here's my negative, here's my positive, and it immediately jumps to a reading of 12.7 volts. It's already recognized that I'm on a DC volt scale, and that's what I'm trying to measure. So very clever. Now if I take these right off, right, and then immediately I touch these leads together, it jumps to a continuity and guesses that that's what I'm trying to do, is do continuity test. So even though you can select which function you want, you can use this auto function to kind of jump between things more quickly and sometimes you have your hands full, and it's really nice just to be able to jump and do something, and it takes a guess at what you're doing, and it's probably smart enough to do that. But if you do want to select your function, you could do that. So right now I'm on DC volts. If I hit the select button, I go to AC volts. So it works much like another meter might. If I go to the next function, I'm on ohm meter. That's continuity. And you can cycle through these functions as quickly as you want. So all the functions you would normally see in a nice meter are here: AC, DC voltage, resistance, continuity, diode, capacitance, which isn't in every meter, millivoltage, frequency and duty measurement we'll get to in a second. Temperature, which has separate leads. It does have AC voltage non-contact detection, which means if you are trying to find a wire on a wall or something, you can use that. Live wire detecting. So milliamp and current measurement. So there's all sorts of functions that you might use in a shop, but also in the building trades as well. So the frequency scale is measured in hertz. If you look online, though, there are conversions you can do between RPM and hertz, and it might be useful if you're trying to measure a tachometer for accuracy or something like that. Now, the other buttons here are going to be familiar to anyone who's used a meter before. You got a range button, a select button, a minimum and maximum button, and a hold button, so you can look at a reading without it disappearing before you can understand it. On the back here, there's a little flashlight and a button on the side, and just like a smartphone, if I press that, it gives you a little flashlight. And that could be really useful, honestly, because a lot of times you're working in a dark, cramped space, and you don't want to have a flashlight in your other hand because that hand is full of something else. So this is nice just to be able to have a quick little flashlight. The screen is pretty bright. I did take it out into daylight. It's not a sunny day, it's a cloudy day, but I could read it on a cloudy day. In very bright sunlight, it might be trouble, but so would a regular meter. And if I, change this, I can get reflections from the shop lights, but I don't find it objectionable. In other words, you just find the right spot and you read it. You notice the screen is big enough to have multiple readings on here. So this is DC voltage, and it would have the main reading here as DC voltage. And then up top here is temperature. They just give you that as an extra. So you can have the voltage and temperature at the same time. And it has the scale on the bottom here. Now if I change this to AC voltage, now it's going to give me the AC voltage reading here and the hertz reading up here. So it has multiple readings on one screen. So this unit has two special things going for it. One is the screen itself, and just having that color screen, having the size of the screen, and having all that information in the same place is really helpful and definitely makes it easier to use the unit. The other thing that I think can't be overestimated is this auto function. And for beginners, yeah, it's great because it'll help you figure out which selection you're supposed to be on without too much trouble, and it will tell you if the leads are in the wrong place and that kind of thing. But even for a seasoned pro, this is really helpful. So this auto mode can save time when you're trying to do troubleshooting. So in auto mode now, I'll just touch the negative side of the terminal with one lead, and on the other lead I'll do the positive side, and we get a voltage. Now without touching the meter at all, perhaps I want to measure continuity or resistance. So I can just take this one lead off, I'll leave the negative on there, and touch this lead to, I'll just touch this bolt right here, and I'm getting a continuity reading. See the green light come on there, so I know I have continuity between the negative side of the battery and this bolt. So things like that can quickly move between one function and another, and it definitely does save some time. And aside from the screen and that auto function feature, I do like that it's fairly thin in the hand, and you have that little flashlight on the back, which isn't super bright, but it's enough to get the job done. So look, the bottom line is I think this is a nice little meter. I definitely like the feature of the screen and the auto function the most. And I'm going to be using this on upcoming projects, and I'll just see how it works out, and I'll let you know. But so far, I think I can recommend it. It's not terribly expensive, and I think it's a decent little meter.